Rutherford County School Board November 3rd meeting. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Board Member Wayne Blair. Thank you, Mr. Blair. We'd like to ask the audience and staff to join the board in remembrance of Ms. Esther Garrison. She was the first woman to ever serve on the Rutherford County School Board and was actually, I believe, for 2 terms. She represented myself in Las Casas, I believe. But at any rate, Ms. Garrison passed away, I believe, yesterday at 95. Would you join me in a moment of silence for her family, please? Ms. Garrison was a tremendous contributor to education in this county.
I remember when she served.
Just a very gracious lady. Board, I need a motion on the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Mr. Blair, thank you. A second?
Second.
A second. I believe Ms. Moore won that race by about 2 seconds or 1/2 a second. Any comment? All in favor then please say aye. Aye. And opposed or none. Approval of the consent agenda. Need a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Young. A second?
Second.
I believe that was Mr. Estes.
There was I think we may have added a couple of names to the volunteer coach from your Tuesday night. So if you want to take one more look at that, Mr. Tackett came through with some more he'd requested, but additional 2 names, right, Ms. Michaels, I think?
On page 3, I believe, non-faculty volunteer coaches. Is that what
Yes,
you're
sir.
talking about? Any comment, board? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, or none. We have, I believe visitors is the next spot, right? We have a visitor with us tonight, Mr. Mark Martin. Mr. Martin, if you would come to the podium, certainly would be appreciated. Please state your name and your address and remind you that you're welcome here, and we want to hear whatever reviews you may have. And you have a time limit of 3 minutes, and I'd appreciate it, and the board would, if you would stick to that.
Yes, sir.
You go ahead with your name and address, please, and your concerns.
My name is Mark Martin, 1639 Antebellum Drive here in Murfreesboro. Just to bring some awareness for special needs education, some of the concerns that I speak on behalf of many other families who couldn't make it here tonight. As you have in front of you some of the notes concerning what brought this all about was when I read and got wind of the news through the DNJ about the proposal for a new high school, Rockville for Rockville High School, that I think it's necessary that we look at what can we do for special needs families. You're spending money on that school, which I'm sure is needed, but we're in much need of special needs awareness, education, how we can help our special needs families in an educational setting. As I have put down here, 1 in every 88 children born will be diagnosed with autism. And 1 in every 6,000 live births will be diagnosed with tuberous sclerosis complex, which me and my son Alexander have. Now you can say, looking down the road, they're coming. In the next 10, 15 years, you're going to have these kids coming in, and they're going to be school age, and they're going to need special education services. Well, that's where we come in on point number 3. Are you aware that a systemic problem countywide concerning violations of IEPs? We also have issues with that, and does the board recognize that the county's expense to pay for attorney's fees, both county and family, and placement fees? There's a lot of cash that's going to be rolling off of that. There already has been some money that has been distributed to lawyers' fees, and I'm sure that in our first case, in our first due process, $25,000 can still go a long ways, let alone special needs, but public education too. The county's not implementing their federal laws, but their own made laws. It's a federal law that they abide by a lot of the issues in the IEP, but they come through loopholes and they find them and therefore neglect and reject what our children are due by the IEP. This has been a huge mess, and we're about to go on our 3rd due process. As our families, increasing amount of administrative complaints, and they're increasing on a daily basis. I mean, the people are coming out of the woodwork because the voice of one has been heard. There's been favorable decisions because people are saying, wait a minute, this is not right, what's happening in our special needs classrooms and schools. There's a big problem, gentlemen and ma'am. There's a huge problem going on. So is the board aware of these vital issues as they plan to spend tons of money on this high school? Again, it's much needed high school, I'm sure, but at the same time, you've got a population that's about to roll up on Rutherford County school systems each day, and it's growing. So these are some of the things that I wanted to bring towards the board's attention, and I think they're vital, and we got tons of families that are rolling out here with such issues that I have, and I would appreciate and hopefully respect that the board would take a deeper look into these issues and not just blow it off through politics, or because if you had a child of your own, I'm sure you'd feel the same way that we do. And again, I speak on behalf of many other families. I thank you for your time. Appreciate you.
Well, you have timed out just perfectly. Is Nadia Martin here? Okay. Now, Mr. Martin, I'm going to suggest to you, since this is and to answer some of these questions on here, yes, we are very much aware. I can assure you of that. But not taking it any further than that, I'm going to suggest to you that you call Ms. Michaels, who's sitting right here, and you make an appointment where we can get the right people at the table to talk with you and any other member of your family that you'd like to bring with you, perhaps sometime next week. That would be my advice. You do as you wish, sir. I appreciate your comments tonight. Appreciate you being here. Thank you. Yes, sir. Okay, spotlight on education tonight. Project Feed Laverne High School. I see the esteemed principal with us tonight.
Mr. Kerry Holman is here, and for the last several years, they've had a project that has quite a bit of notoriety, but a lot goes into that, and much of it's done by our employees at that school. So, Mr. Holman?
Thank you. First of all, thank you so much, Ms. Odom. To the board, I greatly appreciate being afforded this opportunity to share with you exactly about Project Feed and how long it has been in existence. Let me give you some brief history of Project Feed. First of all, it started some 9 years ago when I was named principal at Central Middle School. And once being named principal of Central Middle School, I needed to make sure that we built community relations as we took on an endeavor of taking a school and taking it to the next level. So in doing so, the very first thing that we did was capitalize on how can we get our community in that neighborhood and our surroundings involved in the school. So the idea was birthed that I come up with called Project Feed. So what Project Feed is, every year, this is now year 9 that we have been doing this. Now that I'm at Laverne Middle School, this is year 7 there. We do a canned food drive for an entire 2-week period. All the canned foods are then cooked at our school in the afternoon. Then, in addition to the canned food drive, we then have all of my sports teams and all of my clubs. They know that when they are doing their budgets through the course of the year, they must budget for a turkey and a ham to be utilized during this project. And so each year, for the last 9 years, we each year probably cook right at about 19 to 20 hams, 19 to 20 turkeys every single year, in addition to the canned foods that we have collected through our students. How our teachers then get involved, I ask that the teachers they do all of the homemade cornbread that they bring to the school. In addition to that, we go out to the local community. I'm grateful for the Smyrna Laverne Rotary. They have been very active supporters every year, as well as local vendors there in the city of Laverne and Smyrna. And so with that, then my support staff is responsible for all the desserts. So everything is a very orchestrated event. So what we do, the Tuesday that we get out of school for Thanksgiving, when everyone else is ready to leave school and hit the road and get on vacation, not us at Laverne Middle School. We are in the kitchen throughout the course of the day. On that Monday, I make it a point. I clear my schedule. I make it a point, as you can see there in the picture, I make it a point to go down to our teen life class there. And now it is called our adolescent class. And I purposely walk students through how my grandmother, how my mother taught me to clean a turkey and also then season it well, as well as the hams. And to watch children have to see me take it out of the pack, clean it off, and then model that, because as an educator, what is the very first thing we should always do? We model what we expect children to do. So I model that for them, and after I have cooked 2 turkeys through the process, I turn them loose. We go loose, and as you can see there, these are pictures from a couple years ago. We are in the class, and they're going full-fledged of stuffing this turkey. The idea is to cook it the day before so they can then smell it, and then the day of the event, they get to then embrace this whole notion of, I took part in cooking that turkey. They're actually trying to figure out which turkey is theirs when we're serving it. From then there, because once again, from Mom teaching me and my grandmother, we make homemade cornbread dressing every single year. Through that, we take all the cornbread that our faculty and staff have cooked, and then I take it down once again to the Teen Life class along with my teachers and support staff, and we literally go through the whole chopping of onions and peppers and celery and really making homemade cornbread dressing. I say all that proudly because through the 9 years that we have done this, both at Central and now at Laverne Middle School, approximately about 5,500 people have received meals from this endeavor. From this, there's absolute zero cost to the school, simply because everything is donated. Every item is donated, as well as then what our faculty and staff does. And so, as I said to you earlier, our faculty, we are there on that Tuesday from 3:45 every year to 6 o'clock, feeding our local community. We have been afforded the opportunity to have Channel 4 to come, Channel 2 to come. Mr. Evans had shown up to take pictures as well, and the local media as also. The joy of it all is letting kids see the importance of giving, but all at the same time, they're learning while they're doing what they're doing. Yes, we are tasked to do a great deal of curricular-based activities and instruction, but the realization in addition to that is we too must prepare them for real-life situations that are going on every single day. And so this is the joy that we get by doing this each year. The kids are always excited about it. They've already started asking, when are we going to start doing the turkeys and the hams? And every kid wants to do it, but I can't do every class. But it is a joy to sit and watch them do this. So I ask of you, and those of you that are here, feel free to come by. I guarantee you will not be upset with the meal that you get. It is literally a full-course Thanksgiving meal. Homemade dressing, turkey, ham, cranberry sauce, creamed potatoes, green beans, corn, roll, dessert, and tea. You can't beat it for free. And so with that, it's each year, the community, they love it. They're excited about coming back. When I think that I'm not going to do it again, it's like, okay, I'm looking forward to this again, you know. And so thank you so much. This is what we do to build school and community relations at our school. And our parents are very excited about it. Our teachers are always excited. And my student clubs absolutely embrace it to the utmost. So I will now entertain questions that you may have for me.
I don't know if we have any questions or not. That was beautifully expressed, and it's wonderful when youngsters and teachers as well, and yourself,
Yes, sir.
serve others. That is absolutely terrific. But in what better day than 2 days before Thanksgiving?
Absolutely.
But board, any comments?
I know that there are challenges for Laverne Middle School, not the least of which is the fact that they sit there adjacent to, in the midst of, the largest subdivision in the state of Tennessee with Lake Forest Estates. And the density there, it is so challenging for Laverne as a community to instill that community spirit. Even though there are so many people there, there's so much diversity, there's so many differing opinions, there's so many different family groups. This is an event that community absolutely revels in. It's been my pleasure to be there a couple of times, and the community marks this on their calendar, and it is special for Laverne Middle School, but it is special for all of Laverne. and everyone appreciates it. Parents have sat with me and shared about the transformation that they see that is middle school, and those 6th, 7th, and 8th grade years are so vitally important, and what you're doing there is outstanding, not the least of which is in this program.
Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate those remarks. I will say that in the 7 years that I have now been there, it has been our motto. There are no such thing as problems at Laverne Middle School. All we have are opportunities, and we embrace those opportunities every day.
Mr. Chairman, I've visited a few times too, and I believe it's probably one of our most successful outreach programs in this district. And to see the pride that the students and your staff have in feeding all those people, it's very impressive.
We average right at about 750 every year.
Impressive.
That's remarkable. Board, any further comments?
I'd just like to say thank you, Mr. Holman. This is just fabulous. I mean, I'll echo what Mr. Jordan said. Teaching the students, these kids, the importance of giving back and serving others. It's something you don't see in an awful lot of schools these days. Not so in Rutherford County, but I applaud you. I think this is wonderful.
Thank you.
What you do.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll share one other thing with you too. I was in visiting schools earlier this week, and went to Cedar Grove. And Cedar Grove, one of the things that they do too is they look at some of their families they know that might not have a Thanksgiving meal at home. They get to see this, and their staff collects items, staff does and all for them, and they put it in a big bag to send home. Last year they did 65 of those bags to families who may not have had a Thanksgiving meal at home and provide it for them. And she told me their plans is to do it again this year. They're already well into it and doing it. So I think sometimes people don't realize how involved schools are and how much they care about the student and really try to extend it. But you kind of lead the way in this area, Mr. Holman, I have to say. Very good.
Thank you, Mr. Holman.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. I believe we get to go to Mr. Zago at this point.
Right. I asked Mr. Zago, and can I just give you a little quick overview of what it is, E-Plan. E-Plan is the electronic system now that the state is having everything from finances to food service to all our grants, our monies, and all comes through that. But one thing that was added this year, I think it's important for the board to sometimes for you to get that big overall view of kind of what schools are kind of required to do. For many, many years, we would have to do a school improvement plan, typically on paper, just a few pages that may be, and it was every 2 or 3 years. But this year, for the first time, all schools in the public schools in the state of Tennessee, and our 46 schools, all must submit an E-Plan online based upon some of the state's focused areas and criteria. So again, in case a school asks you or somebody says, how do you design your school improvement? How do you kind of look at your data and decide what you need to include? I want you to kind of have that big picture look so that you can discuss it with your constituents or anybody else. So Mr. Zago is going to share E-Plan with us, which is Tennessee.
You about finished for me, Mr. Odom. I don't know how I'm going to follow Mom's cornbread dressing and Grandma's apple pie. I think I might have been set up. I'm not certain, but Mr. Holman does have an exceptional event that takes place over there that helps a lot of people. What I have here is the first slide, and actually you're only seeing 1/3 of the first page when I go to the Department of Tennessee E-Plan website. It is very, very large process of completing this. You see this first part here, and I'm going to flip to the next one. Some of the things that we worked through on the E-Plan, you guys have seen, you approved for us. All the grants that you've seen, such as the Read to Be Ready or the Title III or the consolidated application, for Mr. Sandvig, CTE Perkins grants, those other CT Perkins Basic and Reserve both grants, the IDEA, the special ed, the Title X McKinney-Vento grants. And what's so amazing is that's the list of grants and those due dates. Rutherford County has applied and received monies for every one of those possible grants. And you have seen those and approved the usage of those through here. And we see that through the E-Plan. It helps us remember to apply for those and lets us know the process. One of the other things is, it gives us documentation. Also, it reminds us when we have to turn in different documents. For example, comparability, and you guys may not even realize this, but the state of Tennessee requires for us as an LEA to turn in a comparability report for all of our schools. Each teacher and educational assistant or employee within a school has a weighted factor, and all of our schools have to fall within a certain weighted factor of each other, or we have to add additional personnel. One of the 5 years, and we just completed the fifth one, or I just completed the fifth one with Ms. Wise, since I've been here, in only 1 year have we had to add personnel and had to add a couple of people to Laverne Primary School because of the grade structure there. Educational assistants are not allotted to that same grade structure as other PK5 schools. Kindergarten and first grade receive educational assistance from the state or funding for those, where second, third, fourth, and fifth grade do not receive that same funding. And I had to add positions there. But that has to be posted and completed, those other reports, and it gives us reminders when we go on there. I'm not going to give you all 67 pages, just to let you know. It's a very elaborate plan, and it's taken us several months to complete. Virtually everyone in the central office has worked on Rutherford County's plan. There's the first page, there's the last page, 67 pages.
And very typically for each of your schools, to say this, most of your schools will have a very similar sized e-plan.
Mr. Holman will verify there's 67 pages to his too. One of the issues that we're running into this year was created by our state as well, is that we don't have that state data. Even though we had high school assessments that were given and received back to the state, we haven't gotten reporting back. And all of our E-Plan or all of our plans, school plans or system plans, have to be based on data. So we've been really working hard to get valid data. One of the uses, or one of the pieces of data we're using is, and you guys provided that for us, is our nationally normed screeners that we're used, because it is a nationally normed, it's nationally recognized. If we didn't have that, a lot of our data or a lot of our plans wouldn't have that kind of data to back up those plans within the schools. Some of the schools are utilizing benchmark assessments, or what we call FEAs, which are those different assessments, little short 1-2 question assessments in our schools to let us know within the classroom if our students are learning today what we taught today. And then that we're utilizing those because those are common assessments from one classroom to the next.
This is the state goals.
Yeah.
This is on the state website, and you've heard a little bit about it, commissioner speak, governor speak, but when we design our system E-Plan and schools design their E-Plan, the state will now read them and say, does this align with our overall plan for the state? In other words, is what you're doing going to help us get to this point? And for example, out there, that Tennessee will rank in the top half of National Assessment of Educational Progress in the nation's report card by 2019. You saw this year we were 19th in the nation in the NAEP growth. So we were above some. So Tennessee's trying to get above in all of those categories. You got a graduation rate, an ACT of 21 by 2020, that sort of thing. But then we have to align our goals and our targets also to this for the state to attain it.
These are the minimum goals Mr. Odom just spoke of. Our goals are a little bit more lofty. We'll be meeting that 21 at least a year in advance. Just to give you a specific on the ACT goal, one of our goals is to gain 0.3 of a point over the next several years, that 2020, and we'll meet that goal by 1 year in advance. Once again, Rutherford County's, and it's just discussion we've had with the principals when we met with them about this, is we're not average. We don't expect to be average. We're above average, as Mr. Holliday so eloquently, tells us on a regular basis, that our schools are well above the average within the state of Tennessee or the country. So our goals are not going to be the minimum goals that the state of Tennessee has set. For example, the reading proficiency is that 75% of third grade students reading on third grade level by 2025. Currently, according to our national screener, 73% of our students already are. So we're definitely not going to sit still for the next 7 or 8 years getting the next 2%. Our goals are much beyond that. With this, Mr. Odom had just explained, we had 36 schools that were brought on board this year that had to start doing this plan. The old plan was 4 pages. The new plan is 67 pages. So with that shift, we needed to do a little bit of training and a little bit of providing the schools some information. When Mr. Odom, Ms. Barnes, and the coordinators and I met with the principals at the beginning of the school year this year, we had this flow chart of what the federal ESSA had set for goals, what the state of Tennessee is that first row, their goals, and how our Rutherford County goals tie into those. And once again, that's the requirement. And then their school goals go in that lower. We gave them this tool, and Mr. Holman probably will attest that this was helpful. At least I hope he does anyway. But we also held training sessions for all of the people that were working on those. They could come to the central office. Ms. Wise and her staff, several of the instructional staff, spent time working with each school staff. They had several opportunities to come up here, and we would help them develop their plan. What data can I use, Mr. Sager? Well, here's some data that you have at your school, or what each aspect we tried to walk them through and build that as they were here with us. As I said before, virtually every department in our central office works with them. Mr. Sandvig, the Atlas program, technology, IT, human resource, instruction, RTI, school nutrition, special ed, Title I, ELL, CTE, and almost all the others have different documents that they have to complete within this E-plan on a regular basis. It's not a one and done. We're constantly working and providing more information to the state, and they're also providing more information to us and also providing more opportunities for grants. With all that said, what we're looking for in the end, and I'm very proud of Rutherford County, we've done this for 2 years. Now it's been required of our school system.
Title I the first year.
Right.
You said 36 schools added. We had 10 last year that were the 10 Title I schools had to do it. But they brought on everybody else this year, so now all 46 are included this year.
We had, Rutherford County school system had to do it last year and this year. Last year, all 10 Title I schools were required to do that because of the federal funding requirement that was with them. And the other 36 schools were brought online this year as well. But this is what we're looking for in the end. We submit this to our core center. Our core center will send us a little blurb back. We get about a dozen of these a week for different aspects that we're working with the plan. But this one here says draft completed. So what it means is it was accepted by the state of Tennessee and we're good. Our plan was approved. And I will say this, that through the grapevine, I heard that our plan was the only one last year, the first year, that was approved the first time sent through in our area. I don't know about the other areas. And of course, the second year in a row, our plan was approved the first time through. Not all plans are. I'm very proud of my staff and the people here in the central office and all of their work they've done on this. You guys have any questions?
If you ask a school, if you're visiting a school and you ask what are your targets, what are you seeing you need to do, they have an E-plan. And they can tell you what their individual goals are for their particular school based upon the data they're looking at. So it's personalized down to the school and that need. But it's very organized, it's laid out, and you can see it yourself. If you want to ask, sometime look at it.
We expected a little more grumbling this year than what
They really
we
haven't
see.
complained.
We have not had any, but we really worked hard to get out in front of that and have all of those sessions and events open for the schools to come in and utilize our staff that had worked with it for a couple of years. Plus, we also provided the other 10 schools that had worked with it last year, worked with our other 36 schools to help them through the process as well, because it was quite a change from 4 pages to 67 pages.
Questions from Mr. Zago? Comments?
I'd just like to say that I'm impressed with the fact that even though the state testing fell on its face and served to give us limited, if any, type of feedback, our system was prepared with relevant data to be able to go forward with a plan, and that is to our credit. Also want to point out what I hear from Mr. Zago over and over and over, that whereas many of the state assessments are what we might characterize as autopsy type of testing, the task has been completed, the education has been put in place, and we're looking back to see if we accomplished it. Much of our assessment work is done in a implementation type of assessment, where we're seeing where are we deficient, and what do we need to work on, and yet we can still use that data effectively. There might be something to be learned by others from Rutherford County as an example.
Yeah, the state assessment is the state data could give us some curriculum ideas of where our curriculum may have failed as an overall arching, but if we see things that are common throughout all the schools, so we can go back and do that. But once again, just like you said so eloquently, is that daily data that teachers pull when they give that 1-2 real short 5-10 minute assessment in their classroom, gives those teachers that immediate feedback of what I have to do now to make sure that Richard learns this essential skill. It's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sago. Well, before the director gets to number 9 here, just want to remind the audience, because sometimes they don't know, that sometimes we do not look at this behind us because it's right here. I just wanted to tell you that it's right here on the screen, and so we can read it that way. Also, these we have a work session, and where we discuss a number of these items publicly, of course, 2 days before this meeting, and that includes these policies that we have revised, that I get to bang the gavel, and the director will read them, but Ms. Angel McLeod is really the lady in charge of what policies we're going to look at, and we do that, I believe, once a quarter, so and sometimes more often than that. But director, take it away with the revised policies, if you would.
Okay, it's number 9. The first one is policy 3.210, which is naming new school facilities. The purpose of this revision is to revise the language in the policy to accurately reflect the chairman of the board, not the director, appoints a committee to make recommendation for naming of new schools. And that's because you as a board include people in the community, in the area where the school will be located. Notification of meetings, policy 1.402. This is to revise the language in the policy to accurately reflect the meeting notices are currently posted on the district website. Policy 1.403, agendas. The purpose of this revision is to revise the language in the policy to eliminate the section entitled Annual Agenda. Policy 1.406, minutes. Purpose of this revision to revise the language in the policy to accurately reflect that minutes are accurately posted on the district website and they're archived there if people listening are interested. Policy 1.200, this is a method of election of officers. Purpose of this revision, revise the language in the policy to eliminate the portion requiring the board to nominate a TLN representative in the first regular meeting in September, and clarifying that the director will preside over the meeting until a new chairman is elected. Policy 2.200 is the annual operating budget. Purpose of this revision is to revise the policy to reflect new legal requirements regarding budget timelines. Policy 4.605 are graduation requirements. Purpose of this revision is to revise the policy to comply with the new legal requirements regarding students taking a U.S. civics test and addressing statutory requirements for early graduation. Policy 6.413 is the prevention and treatment of sports-related concussions. The purpose of this revision is to revise the policy to comply with new legislation listing physician's assistants as healthcare providers that may evaluate and provide clearance for return to athletics. Policy 1.407 is school board records. The purpose of this revision is to revise the policy to meet legal requirements that the name or title and the contact information of the individual designated as a public records coordinator will be included in the policy. In policy 6.304, student discrimination, harassment, bullying, cyberbullying, and intimidation, to revise the policy to include the definition of harassment and recommend approval. Your motion is to approve the revisions to policy 3.210, 1.402, 1.403, 1.406, 1.200, 2.200, 4.605, 6.413, 1.407, and 6.304 on first reading as recommended by the Policy Committee.
Just tell the audience that I don't think I mentioned this, the Policy Committee is made up of 14 people, 7 stakeholders, and the entire board. So we have already discussed these on television, and so it may appear that we're not going to have any discussion. I don't know whether we are or not, but we have already given plenty of opportunity for discussion. Board, is there any comment to make on any of these? If not, I need a motion to approve.
Moved.
I think that was Mr. Hodge or Mr. Estes. Mr. Estes, a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Hodge. Thank you so much. Comments from anyone? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposition, there is none. Number 10, Mr. Director.
Number 10 is for information only. Again, the Tennessee School Boards Association recommends that we review policies annually, and we do this by kind of quarters. So review Section 4 instructional services this month, and then refer any potential revisions to Angel McLeod for our next policy committee meeting.
Any comment on that? There's no vote on this one. Insurance update, Ms. Barnes, anything new? This looks like the same piece of paper you gave us last time. Has there been any change?
Yes, sir. I think Mr. Sandvig wrote in the actual increases on that one form and gave you that
Oh, I got it.
information.
Okay, right.
Mr. Young
Mr.
asked
Sandvig,
the other night.
you want to comment, sir?
We did have a blend of rate increases, 2% for the HRA plan, 4% for the copay, and 13.8% for the deductible plan. We also shifted, the commission voted, it's been a year-by-year change on this, they voted several years ago. We dropped the employer share for family coverage from 15%, I'm sorry,
Yeah, that's right.
did I say it right?
From 15 to 16 is now the person must play.
Yeah, the person is paying a higher, 1% higher. So, and that will continue until it gets to 80%, based on what the commission voted several years ago.
Questions for Ms. Barnes or Mr. Sandvig?
I'm sorry.
I just asked for questions on the insurance. Thank you both. Director's update?
Nothing other than what we had Tuesday night. Do not have new information other than we haven't heard another word about the release of the data on the scoring. I don't know whether we're going to wait till after election now or what, but there's been no further comment from the state on that.
I think the Cubs' victory threw everybody off at the State Department. Not sure, but there's got to be some explanation. Ms. Moore, on number 13, Tennessee Legislative Network, anything?
Mr. Chairman, just a couple of mentions. Excuse me. The Tennessee School Board Association, of course, is hosting our state conference this weekend, and there will be a legislative session that we'll get the opportunity to attend. So I will be there, and we're going to have Senator Tracy, of course, who has parts of Rutherford County as a part of his Senate district, as well as Representative Joe Pitts from Montgomery County, and he is on the House Education Instruction and Programs Subcommittee. So looking forward to having the opportunity to hear from them and to learn a little bit more about the legislative process. And also I know we talked about it Tuesday night, but just to mention that on December 12th, that's a Monday night, we're going to be hosting in conjunction with the city school board a meeting with our state legislators. So those invitations will go out next week after, of course, the elections are over and we know who to send them to. But I know that our state representatives are all very concerned, I think, and respectful of the fact that education is such a huge budget, not only budget item, but just so much importance that it holds. And we look forward to and hope that all of them are going to make the effort to attend, because I think that open dialogue between the school board members and the people that actually run our school systems and our state legislators is very, very critical. So we're looking forward to that meeting.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Moore. What the room perhaps does not know is that the president of the Tennessee School Board Association is very ill and will not be there, and so the president-elect gets to run the entire meeting 4 days, and that would be Mr. Blair, and he's very excited about this. You can see it's on his face. He's very excited. Mr. Holliday, number 14, Federal Relations.
There are two things that I'll share with the board here. There's been some national coverage of online charter schools, that these are online curriculums for K through 12 education, and the national media coverage has been of the widespread failure of these programs. Here in the state of Tennessee, we had an effort of a single county allowing for this type of online education, and the performance was so poor that the state eventually did shut it down.
No, I don't think so. They did, it was, Huffman recommended it be closed because of TVOS, but the legislature extended it. So it's with K-12, they did not allow them to enroll new students.
Okay.
I think was the catch, but it is still in force.
Well, yet another example of of failure in that area. It needs to be shut down, and you know, it's just an inadequate offering, and they have, you know, some national coverage of that. In addition to that, the Supreme Court has indicated that they are going to take up the case in the spring, that perhaps will give us direction on bathroom guidelines for public schools, and so we'll continue to watch that as well.
Any questions for Mr. Holliday? Thank both of you for serving with these two legislative groups. This brings us to 15, general discussion by board members. Anything from any board member? If not, I have something, but feel free.
Mr. Jordan?
Yes, sir.
I will share. It's been our practice to hear public comments at the beginning of the meeting, and often these comments come rather unexpected, and you know, from the community, and we don't always have a context for where they're coming from. Our speaker this evening, one of the comments that they actually gave us in writing: are you aware of systemic problems countywide concerning violations of IEPs? I'll have to say, I'm not aware of a systemic problem countywide concerning violations of IEPs. Systemic indicates that it is part of our system. Countywide indicates that it is widespread, and violations of IEPs are just not something that we do or condone, certainly not to my knowledge. There are quite a few areas of due process that our special education department works with, and I think the due process procedure is laborious. It is trying for both our school system and for students and families. But I certainly do not see a situation where our system is aware and turning any kind of blind eye toward an ongoing problem with violating IEPs. I just don't believe it's there. And if anyone would indicate otherwise, I am available and would welcome someone to share that with me.
Thank you, Mr. Holliday. Any comments on Mr. Holliday's remarks? I have one thing that I will say, really just repeat, and that is that I asked Mr. Martin if he wanted to, and I suggested he probably does, to make an appointment, and perhaps next week, to discuss this, and the director has already told me that he will sit in on the meeting if Mr. Martin wants him to, and the special ed department will obviously be there. These are the people that handle this countywide, and I think that is a logical next step. Anything else from anyone? The director, two things. First of all, the director has notified me that he intends to ask for an extension of his contract. He has not told me when he's going to do that, but I suggest it'll be fairly soon. And he hasn't told me the length, which is really none of my business. He can ask whatever he wants, I guess. But as by state law, we have to evaluate the director of schools every year anyway. And of course, I've done this a couple of times, but most of you have done it many times. I contacted Mr. Bennett today, the Tennessee School Board Association. He sent me a copy of the forms that we used last year. You'll have plenty of time to evaluate. He's going to send me copies of the 2016 form sometime in the next few days, or he's going to send them to Ms. Michaels. I don't remember whether he said me or her, but he's going to get them to us. I asked for virtually the same material as we had last time, and to make absolutely sure that there was a lengthy room for any comment that a board member might want to make, either certainly verbally, which you can do in open meeting, or in written form. With that said, the director also wanted me to remind you that almost all of our high schools are playing tomorrow night in the football playoffs. At least a number of them are, and some of them are at home, including the number 2 team in the state, the Oakland Patriots. So at any rate, there you go. So best of luck to all our teams and coaches. Is there anything else, any other general discussion by board members? Okay. Thank you so very, very much, everyone, for your input and help. We are adjourned.